On this Monday night, a deadly shooting in Montreal. The gun battle that left one officer dead and another wounded.
It's a very, very sad day. It's a nightmare.
What we know about the suspect, who also died at the scene. Another British Prime Minister calls it quits.
I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Why Keir Starmer is leaving less than 2 years after winning in a landslide, and the politician waiting to take over. Inflation in Canada ticks up again. How much is due to the Iran war, as Tehran and the Trump administration have different messages about negotiations to reach a lasting peace. And he was a music mogul. How one of the most influential men in music shaped the careers of some of the biggest names.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Another police officer has been killed in the line of duty in this country. In Montreal, in what the police chief calls a nightmare, one officer was killed and another injured as they responded to a call about a man firing a weapon. A civilian was also shot and killed, as was the suspect. The area went into lockdown, police issuing an emergency alert about an armed threat, warning people in the area to stay indoors. This is the latest in a string of unrelated incidents this month of police being killed or injured, a reminder of the risks frontline officers face. Mike Armstrong has our top story tonight.
Oh, they think he's up high.
The scene unfolded with cell phone cameras rolling in every direction despite the danger. At first, some thought the sounds were from a nearby construction site. The second round of gunfire was unmistakable.
Police just swarmed the area. Right outside our window, we saw them going into the grocery store, guns drawn, hiding behind cars.
Now, police say the 911 call came in at 11:35 a.m., reporting a gunman in an upper window at a hotel. When officers arrived, the gunman was at ground level. The final firefight was around a large planter at close range, also captured on camera. The gunman appears to be in military fatigues. The video is very graphic. Global News is not showing it. When it was over, 3 people were dead, an officer, a civilian, and the gunman. Another officer was in critical condition, but stable.
It's a very, very sad day. It's a nightmare.
An emotional Montreal police chief met the media mid-afternoon after speaking to the families of his affected officers. The chief also put to rest suspicions there was a second gunman. For about 3 hours, the public was told to shelter in place. Montreal's main north-south artery, Highway 15, right beside the scene, was closed as a precaution.
At this point, the immediate threat is controlled, safe, so the community is safe.
Now, there are reports a media outlet was sent a manifesto by the gunman, something police are not confirming. There is also speculation the civilian may have been shot by a police officer accidentally in the chaos.
There have been some rumors, there have been some information stating that the civilian was shot by a police officer. This is not the kind of information that we can share at this moment. It's really the Bureau des Enquêtes Indépendantes that will conduct the investigation.
They are safe.
Montreal's mayor is reassuring the public that Monday's violence is rare. It was all hands on deck, including the Montreal Police Terrorism Squad. The public security minister says the attack is not linked to anything outside the province. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says he was horrified to learn of the shooting in Montreal. My gratitude, he posted, is with our courageous police officers whose heroic dedication protects our communities. In Saskatchewan, 2 RCMP officers who were shot while responding to reports of an assault are in stable condition. It happened last night in the town of Melville, northeast of Regina.
What started off as a report of an assault, something we attend to routinely, ended as a potentially life-changing call for 2 of our officers.
Police say the officers were shot as they approached a home. They are in hospital in Regina with serious injuries. After a 4-hour standoff, investigators say 2 people walked out of the house. A man was arrested, a second person was detained and later released. Canada's inflation rate in May was the highest it has been in more than 2 years. Stats Canada data shows the inflation rate rose to 3.2% in May. The price of gas was up 33% compared to the same time last year, and food prices were up 4.3%. Much of the rise thanks to the war the U.S. and Israel launched on Iran. Sarah McDonald looks at the impact.
From the pumps to the stores, it's impossible to ignore the reality of inflation.
Yes, I certainly have noticed a change.
And it's not just a feeling. New data released by Stats Canada Monday confirms the rising cost of living is fact.
Chicken used to be like $13.99. Now it's like $29 something dollars.
The price of fresh vegetables, for example, jumping 9% year over year. Fruit, like apples, facing a more than 5% increase, with fresh tomatoes up a whopping 45%.
Sometimes during the winter, I don't buy that cauliflower.
Hard numbers that come as no surprise to these shoppers.
Elderly people that are on fixed incomes and stuff, it's hard for them.
We are unfortunately at the whim of some people whose motives are not making sure that everybody can afford their groceries.
Economist Tom Davidoff says it's all the trickle-down effect of supply chain issues, fueled by warring world powers, specifically impacting oil.
It can't flow easily through the Strait of Hormuz, and that means gas prices are higher, and that means transportation costs are higher. So when you go to the pump, you pay more, but when your trucker delivers lettuce to your supermarket, they pay more too.
It's hitting young Canadians like Jamie where it hurts.
Used to pay about $80 for gas, maybe it's $120 now, so kind of brutal.
It's been on my mind.
And Stephen too, staring down the barrel of an increasingly rising cost of living.
I'd like a family. I'd like to raise my family in a home. To do that here, it's a bit more difficult than other places.
With all Canadians feeling the heat of an economic slow boil. Sarah McDonald, Global News, Vancouver.
The first round of talks on ending the war that has upended the global economy are said to have made progress. The U.S. says it's temporarily lifting oil sanctions on Iran. But what's been agreed to really depends on which side you listen to. Our Washington Bureau Chief Jackson Proskow is with me. Jackson, where do things stand tonight?
Well, Donna, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is on his way home from Switzerland after that first round of talks concluded. Vance called the negotiations a good foundation for the next 60 days of talks, which are aimed at ending this war for good. Now, in exchange for the U.S. lifting oil sanctions, Vance claims that Iran has agreed to invite UN nuclear inspectors back into the country. But Iran is pushing back and said it has made no new commitments to inspections so far.
You can't trust anybody's words. You have to trust what they actually do. Letting in the inspectors is a big deal, but again, we're going to see what they actually let the inspectors do once they're in the country. That's going to continually be a part of our negotiation.
Lots still being negotiated, Jackson, but how is what's being talked about now different from where things were under the nuclear deal with Iran that former President Obama negotiated, a deal that Donald Trump withdrew from?
Yeah, so far they're actually very similar to that original deal. Remember that Iran only limited nuclear inspections because of Trump's withdrawal from the original deal. Now, essentially, Trump is going right back to where he came from. In fact, much of what's likely to be offered up by Iran is now exactly what was on the table in those talks in the days just before the U.S. and Israel decided to launch this war. The final contours of a lasting deal are still a long way off, and there's a risk that the talks could fall apart during the next 60 days. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be in the Gulf region beginning on Tuesday. And Donna, he's trying to reassure those nervous American allies who may have doubts about what this war really accomplished.
Okay, Jackson Proskow in Washington. Thanks, Jackson. At least 13 people have been killed and 66 injured after an explosion at Qatar's largest natural gas facility. Qatar's energy minister calls it an accident caused by a technical malfunction and that it was not sabotage or hostile in nature. The facility had been bombed by Iran early in the war and workers were getting it back online. The Ras Laffan port is the largest artificial harbor in the world and has the world's largest LNG export facility. There's another change coming at the top of British politics. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who won by a landslide less than 2 years ago, is calling it quits, pushed out by his own party.
And I will do everything I can to ensure an orderly handover of power. I will also give my successor my full and unequivocal support.
That successor is expected to be Andy Burnham, who was mayor of Manchester and got himself elected as an MP. The Labour Party is expected to anoint him without a leadership contest, and that would make him the 7th British Prime Minister in 10 years. Redmond Shannon reports on why the Labour Party is so keen for a new leader.
finally facing the inevitable.
Walking up this street 2 years ago was the proudest moment of my life.
Following months of pressure and promises to fight on, Keir Starmer called time on his 2 years in power.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
A huge Labour Party majority in Parliament didn't protect Starmer. Policy U-turns, the controversial appointment of Peter Mandelson as US ambassador, and criticism for being too wooden led to tanking poll numbers.
Being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic.
But Starmer did allow emotion to show as he thanked his wife and children.
And being the best dad I can to my beautiful children.
We now come to Andy Burnham, member for Makerfield.
Starmer's resignation became almost inevitable after Andy Burnham won a by-election for Labour last week.
I swear by Almighty God.
The outgoing mayor of Greater Manchester is a former government minister, welcomed back by hordes of colleagues. His only expected rival for PM, Wes Streeting, now says he won't run.
He's got my full backing.
The man who hopes to woo back voters from Nigel Farage's Reform Party could now walk into 10 Downing Street by mid-July unopposed, his positions untested.
I think they see Andy Burnham as somebody who conveys a degree of optimism.
Professor Tony Travers says the new normal of regular change at the top of British politics is partly down to Britain's lagging economy.
But secondly, Brexit, almost exactly 10 years ago to now, had an impact on the British political system.
If Burnham does replace Starmer, he will have up to 3 years to turn things around for the Labour Party before the next election. That's if British politics affords him such a luxury. Donna?
Redmond Shannon at 10 Downing Street in London, thanks. Canada's push for a nuclear renaissance coming up. The federal government's ambitious plan to build and export nuclear reactors. The federal government is considering a major change to the route of a planned high-speed rail line between Toronto and Quebec City.
We are formally asking Alto to develop a plan to assess a southern route option between Peterborough and Ottawa that includes a stop in Kingston that would interconnect, yes, interconnect with Via Rail services.
The Transport Minister says adding a stop in Kingston, Ontario would make travel times along the 1,000-kilometre corridor longer, but would draw more passengers. The government says it's responding to feedback after public consultations. There is opposition, though, from people who live along the route. Construction is expected to start in 2029, and the cost is estimated at $60 to $90 billion. The federal government has unveiled its new national nuclear strategy. It includes building at least 10 large-scale reactors in Canada, at least 2 of them under construction by 2035. That would help reach the goal of doubling Canada's electrical grid capacity by 2050. As well, Canada's nuclear technology would be exported. Gillian Piper explains the strategy and when it will start to deliver.
The world is entering a nuclear renaissance.
Energy Minister Tim Hodgson wants to lead that revival, pledging to scale up Canada's nuclear power.
Energy security is national security, and that advantage matters more than ever.
The new federal nuclear strategy promises to increase domestic production to export more reactors globally and fast-track construction of up to 10 new large-scale reactors in Canada by 2040.
If you shoot for that, shoot for the moon, get some of the stars, I think that's absolutely doable.
But the plan is short on some key details, including who is footing the bill. The federal government has not put up any new funds, but a senior government official estimates the new infrastructure will cost more than $100 billion, an expense that may require money from the provinces.
Collaboration across provinces and territories in the energy sector is something that has been a struggle in Canada historically.
Collaboration that cannot take place with Mark Carney. Highlighted on the front page of the strategy, the document is not to be shown to the Prime Minister, subject to a conflict of interest screen. Global News asked Carney's office about the conflict and received no response. But Carney is banned by the Ethics Commissioner from decisions involving Brookfield, which owns nuclear energy company Westinghouse. Hodgson's office says there have been no opportunities for those companies mentioned in the strategy to inappropriately benefit, saying the Prime Minister has not been involved in any discussions or decisions regarding the nuclear energy strategy. The opposition leader dismissing the strategy as an empty promise.
The focus has to be on results, not yet more promises and illusions.
The Energy Minister is set to meet with his provincial counterparts in Yellowknife later this week, where he will likely be looking to pitch the provinces on making this new strategy a reality. Donna?
All right, Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thanks. Fire and floods ahead. Two provinces dealing with completely different kinds of extreme weather. Much of Europe is still sweltering in a heat wave. Temperatures soared above 40 degrees in most of Spain today. Madrid has opened a climate shelter for vulnerable people. 5 people have died in southern France over the past 3 days, including 2 children who were found in a car. And heat records for June could be smashed this week in the UK, where some regions could reach 39 degrees Celsius. Hundreds of homeowners in Montreal are assessing the damage after heavy rain over the weekend led to flash flooding. Environment Canada says up to 150 millimeters of rain fell in just a few hours on Saturday, flooding homes and cutting power to thousands of people. Local authorities say they've received about 800 calls for assistance since Saturday afternoon. Severe weather has residents in parts of Western Canada on edge. In BC, the village of Lytton is anxiously watching a wildfire burning nearby 5 years after that town was destroyed by a fire. And people in and around Edmonton are pumping out their basements after heavy rain triggered flooding. Heather Yurex West reports.
East of Edmonton, the town of Tofield, Alberta, has turned into a lake.
In my entire life, I've never seen this much water here. Spent the last 2 nights pumping out my sister's basement. There was about a foot of water in her basement. The water system just couldn't keep up. Everyone's basement was flooding.
A weekend of heavy rain putting the town's stormwater and sewage systems under so much strain, a state of local emergency has been called. One of several communities in the region on alert.
We are dealing with a lot of ground coverage and groundwater. There are isolated flooding areas, and we are doing everything we can to mitigate that and support those that are being affected by it.
Experiencing the city's second wettest June on record, Edmonton residents are being asked to avoid all unnecessary indoor water use, with the city's stormwater system at capacity and more rain on the way. The soggy situation in stark contrast to the dangerously dry conditions to the west, where a wildfire near Lytton, BC burns out of control.
We currently have 150 BC wildfire personnel along with Lytton Fire and Rescue. We have 53 structure protection staff, 10 helicopters, and our incident management team has been assigned to this incident.
With more fires anticipated in the coming days across the province, with the temperature set to soar.
We are looking at highs potentially into those low to mid 30s and potential crossover conditions. So that's when the relative humidity drops below the temperature. That's when fires can explode.
Last month, Natural Resources Canada forecast the fire risk in BC would continue building into the month of July. The wild western weather offering this bizarre chance to beat the BC heat. Summer skiing near Banff. The Alberta Rockies still so covered in snow that Sunshine Village plans to keep several runs open for the next 2 weeks. Heather Yurex West, Global News, Calgary.
Next, remembering Clive Davis, the music mogul who kick-started the careers of some of the biggest stars.
For nearly 2 decades, Chairman Greenspan has shepherded our economy through its highs and its lows.
Alan Greenspan, who spent over 18 years as chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, has died at the age of 100. He served under 4 presidents, overseeing a period of unprecedented prosperity in the U.S., though his policies were later blamed for contributing to the subprime mortgage crisis in the U.S. and the global recession of 2008. Greenspan died from complications of Parkinson's disease. The world has lost another titan of the music industry, the legendary music executive Clive Davis. Davis was at the helm of some of the biggest record labels in the world and helped launch the careers of lots of the biggest stars. Eric Sorensen looks at the career of the guy known as the man with the golden ears.
Carlos Santana did not want to do this song, but Clive Davis insisted, and it went to #1 for 12 weeks. He never wrote or sang a note, but behind the scenes as a producer and executive, Davis had an uncanny ear, advancing countless music careers.
Bruce Springsteen, Aretha, The Grateful Dead, Carlos Santana.
The film The Soundtrack of Our Lives described a mastermind of collaborations.
He would take an artist and a song and say, you should do this song.
But when it comes to ears, when it comes to music, I go with what my ears and what my gut tell me.
He discovered such diverse talent, from Janis Joplin to Whitney Houston, who he signed at 19.
You either got it or you don't have it. She's got it.
She got it. Wait till you hear it.
But it's real! It's real!
Houston went to the absolute top, and she credited Davis.
I love this man. He's my father of the industry. He's my dad in the industry. He talks to me like my father. Oh, you better do it.
Clive Davis could change with the times. With Sean Puff Daddy Combs, he helped take hip-hop mainstream.
I heard the vision articulated. I said, okay, you got me. I'm financing Pet Boy Records.
He was the not-famous face who was famous among musicians. They're remembering him today. Michael Bublé. Clive wasn't just a music legend, he was a champion of artists. Bruce Springsteen posted, he treated me with the same respect and kindness as a 22-year-old nobody as he did after all my success. A great man. Clive Davis was 94.
And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is this patriotic piano in Oak Bay, BC. We'd love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.